National Opera star Robert Merrill. And now, to honor America, will you now please join with Mr. Merrill in the singing of our national anthem.
Back here on the Rich Eisen Show on the...
It's already started.
Yeah, I don't know what... Hello. Well, that was my now departed, my good friend, one of the greatest baritones of the 20th century, Robert Merrill, and one of the great Americans of the 20th century. Robert Merrill came from New York, of course. You know, I would want him on just because I loved him. I remember the game. I remember sitting next to him so many times. Toward the end of his career, he wore the number half on his back because he was an official New York Yankee, as I was. I wore their uniform as a coach in the All-Star game in Milwaukee, thanks to my good friend Joe Torre. And to me, everyone has different things about patriotism. All of us, of course, honor and adore the flag. But to me, baseball is patriotic. I don't know how you feel about that. You may have a different sport. You may feel basketball is. I mean, that is an American sport, maybe even more than baseball. Although, really, if you think about it, baseball is an American sport. Hockey, of course, is not, but it's become like an American sport. Football, the way we play it, it's sure as heck an American sport. Football is what you're watching on the World Cup. Is that our football? No, two different games. So let's begin, as we should, with a beautiful prayer. Because among all the things that it is, the Declaration of Independence is a prayer. The Declaration of Independence, when properly understood, is what we would call aspirational. It isn't necessarily a reflection of who we were completely at the time that it was written, maybe not even who we are today completely, but it's an aspiration. It's a goal. It's the only nation up until this time that ever had this goal. It's one of the few nations to this day that has a goal. It's a country based on an idea or ideas. The most brilliant, the most beautiful, and really the most sacred ideas that human beings have ever had about government. It begins, of course, with an introduction, the first paragraph. We're just going to read the first two, and we're going to do a brief analysis of the first two. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. And now the words that will live in eternity. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That, very briefly, is the American creed. Like they have in the Christian religion, the creed, the credo, the I believe in one God. This is the American creed. Everything else comes from it. This is what we call foundational. And these ideas were unheard of at the time. And at the bottom of that document, which goes on to list the reasons that we were required to break from Great Britain. At the bottom are the names of the signers, all written very clearly. Largest one being John Hancock, who made sure that he put his name first, because since he was the president of the convention, the chairman of the convention, he felt he was the one that if they died, should die first. But all of them, had this gone wrong, and there was every chance that it would, every one of those men who on that day put their names on that document knew that more likely than not, they were signing their death warrant. And they were signing their death warrant on the hope that what I just read to you became reality. And then the rest of the document is a document borrowed from English practice and law called a declaration, often used, for example, in lawsuits, like we use a complaint now. These are the grievances that you have that justify breaking your allegiance to the King of England. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future safety. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And then he goes on and lists the grievances that led to our revolution, a revolution that at the time of July 4, 1776, was given little chance to succeed against the greatest military power in the world, the greatest navy in the world, and a completely disorganized group of 13 colonies bound together most securely by one thing greater than a king can ever accomplish: faith in the virtues and principles and ideals that I read to you in that brief paragraph. And absolutely certain that those rights were given to them by a power higher than the King of England, higher than even the people of the colonies. And that power was God, the creator of the universe. So the first and foremost foundation of America is belief in God. That's our foundation. That's what we base it on. That's where it comes from. That's where our rights come from. And that's where our ultimate obligation is. And of all the things that we have today on our 250th birthday that make us materially the greatest power on earth, the greatest power that's ever been on earth, economically, militarily, politically, there is one thing missing, and that is an absolute, close to unanimous belief that our rights come from God. And the process that began many years ago of driving God out of public life, public discussion, in every form imaginable, is the root cause of the depression, uneasiness, lack of pride that certain people have. All of them stem from that. And all of them can be reversed if we reestablish our foundational beliefs, as many people are doing. So we're going to turn to the show, go over the news items that we normally do that you might be deprived of in whole or in part. And then we are going to spend the second half of the show more carefully explaining, illustrating, and discussing what those words mean and what this most important of birthdays and anniversaries means to us, because we are indeed at a turning point. And I do believe that when we look back on this anniversary, like I can look back on the 200th anniversary, we're going to see that once again, our country marched fully forward, attempting to realize all of those aspirations. Because the concept, the belief, the hope, the faith in America is to create a more perfect union. Even then, and even in the best days we may want to go back to, we never quite reach those aspirations. We kept doing better and better. And we have to continue on that journey. And that is what makes us a country that more people want to come to than any country on earth. That is what makes a country that is realizing this phenomenon with the World Cup. That people from Europe come here and say, oh my goodness, this country is wonderful. Aided by the unfair publicity and coverage and brainwashing that occurs in American media and European media and world media about the United States. The baseline for us to reach is way below where we are. So let's begin with the current situation in Iran. We're at a stage now where it seems to me that the sticking point now, and it may or may not be just one of many obstacles that the regime of terror places in the way of really ending this and reaching the tougher questions of turning over all of their nuclear material, giving us an inspection program that satisfies us that we're not going to go back to where we were, that allows us to restore some of their funds to them, but assures us that those funds are not going to be used to fund groups that want to kill us and do kill us. So right now, the obstacle, it appears, is the whole situation of who controls the Strait of Hormuz. It's a bit of an after-the-fact created issue. This war was not about whether Iran and Oman could charge tolls or fees or money to use the Strait of Hormuz to others. This has developed as an issue during the war, and it is flatly in contravention of any form of international law or law of the seas, if you will. Was it a secret desire? Was it a created issue to try and make a resolution of this difficult or impossible? We'll probably find out in due time. At this point, I would say it was more the latter. I would say this emerged, and let me speculate, and this is purely speculation. For purposes of analysis, let's divide Iran into two camps. The president says that one group in Iran is an improvement, is better, is more reasonable and rational. Within certain bounds, and not making too much of that. That's probably true. They may actually be, or they may be pretending to be. But they make it appear as if, or maybe they really do, agree to things that sound reasonable. And then as those are about to be put into action, like we signed the memorandum of understanding. Some ships came through the straits. It hadn't actually quite returned to normal, but it was heading in that direction. All of a sudden, the IRGC issues a warning to everyone: you cannot go through the Gulf unless you have checked your plan with us and with Oman. Now, this is nowhere to be found in that memorandum of understanding. Indeed, it's a violation of it, because the memorandum of understanding says that for 60 days, there will be free passage through the Gulf or the Strait of Hormuz. And both Iran and the United States will do everything they can to accommodate that, to make that happen. So here, instead of doing everything they can to make it happen, they're doing everything they can to stop it. Now, certain countries, maybe with or without the assistance of the United States or one of our allies, interpreted that to mean that would be the case if you went along let's call it the Iranian or Persian side of the Gulf. But that since Oman was saying that they weren't going to charge a toll or a fee, that if you went along the path that tracks Oman and the countries on the western side of the Persian Gulf or Arabian Sea, whichever you like, that you'd be okay. Several ships accomplished that. And then all of a sudden, a group was warned not to do it. 4 of them turned back. 1 went forward, and it was attacked and not destroyed, but incapacitated. In response to that, the United States, almost within hours, responded with 4 or 5 very, very potent attacks on the installations. You see that red or burgundy box there to the left and right of that, up and down the Iranian side of the Gulf, and took out what they either knew or assumed were the installations from which the firing occurred. Then there was a back and forth of a few more attacks like that, and we called a halt. And Iran has issued a statement, now adopted also by the president of Iran, who is, for want of a better way of describing it, on the more, let's say, on the more benign side. That there'll be no more discussion until we resolve this and a proper remuneration or fee is established. So now the two contending forces in Iran have seemed to come together on that. At the same time, Oman is speaking out of both sides of its mouth. They do, and they have at times agreed with Iran that they should be given compensation. And then they tell us that first, whatever compensation would be voluntary. You're going to stop every ship and say you want to make a cut. I mean, this would be like the squeegee men in New York. I mean, we'll clean off your window and give us $2 million. By the way, the plan of the IRGC was to collect $40 million the first year from this. There is an arrangement like this near Singapore, I believe, which is based on actual work that had been done and compensation for it. In 15 years, they've collected about 20 million. In 15 years, they've collected half of what Iran wants to grab in the first year. So, I mean, this is, if it was a highway, we'd call it highway robbery, right? No, you know what this is? This is piracy. This is the initial reason for the establishment of one of the great military forces in the history of the world, considerably greater than any Spartan army, the United States Marine Corps. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, as we, tiny little America, just out of a revolution, with a president who didn't want war, much like the president we have now, Thomas Jefferson. But he knew that America first, defense of America, also meant defense against our foreign enemies that want to destroy us, including destroy us economically. And within a short period of time, America dispatched them and established a legendary, great military corps. So this is a place with massive history. The history, both religious and political, believe it or not, is still very much at the core of what is going on, driving this. Understanding it is difficult. Working your way through it is really hard. But for 47 years, we did nothing of any substance, while acts of war were perpetrated against us, as Americans were killed. And now we have a president that's taking it on. You may agree with some of the things he's doing. You may disagree. But what you really should do, in all fairness, is wait, because this is a work in progress. But in any event, I thank him on our 250th birthday for finally doing what prior presidents should have done. And had it been done earlier, it'd have been much easier. And I also believe one of the things that we can be rightfully very, very confident in and happy about is the change that we made now almost 2 years ago, and put in Washington an administration that understands, incorporates, and lives every day the words that I read at the beginning of this show. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code Rudy. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. First of all, from the United States of America.
And we should
from one of its original colonies, New Hampshire, and the city of Manchester.
and it's a good time to remind everyone about Sticker Mule Pro.
This is a perfect time, and a perfect time for you to go to stickermule.com
/pro.
/pro, stickermule.com weeknights.com/pro, promo code Rudy.
That's right.
And get yourself the things that appeal to you, that allow you to express and show everyone how much you love America. So when people drive through the streets of Manchester, New Hampshire, or Burlington, Vermont, or Seattle, Washington, praise God, New York City, Brooklyn, Tallahassee, Florida, what do they see? Up and down, up and down, up and down. That's what they see. Huh? So before we go further, we have so much to talk about and so little time that I will. There we are, just like that. I'm going to put them like that, Ted. What do you think?
I like that.
Just like that.
That looks good, Mayor.
We're going to just frame. We're going to frame me in them. There. Go a little more.
Come towards me. No, come towards me a little bit.
Like this?
More.
Other way?
Towards me.
Yeah. Like that?
Yeah, more.
You want to see 250, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, that Ted's sneaky.
There we go.
All right.
Good.
Again, happy birthday to all of you Americans, and all of you who, like me, would, oh my goodness, would do what the early immigrants used to do: kiss the ground as they got off the ship, kiss the ground of the streets of New York paved with gold. Not gold money, but gold in ideals and ideal. Gold in terms of opportunity. Gold at almost any time in our existence, including now, we were pretty much the very best human beings could do in government. Flaws, horrible things, mistakes, sins, if you're religious. But always the overriding drive to improve. And to improve not just materially, but spiritually. It's hard for me to think of a country that has in its history and background, the spiritual basis that we have, the idealism that we have, sometimes even accused of simplicity. Not a bad thing to be accused of in a world like this that really needs a tremendous amount of idealism. So the question in Iran, as we were discussing it, was: are they going to solve this not charging a fee problem, which it seems to me we are inextricably opposed to? This would be like a whole new thing that they added to all of this. And where our main, as you know, from the very, very beginning, our main goal has been articulated over and over again. And again, there's no reason to, in any way, dispute this, whether you agree with it or not. Our goal has to make sure they are not a nuclear power and never become a nuclear power. And the reason for that is simple. First of all, we don't need any more nuclear powers. We got enough, and it's a big problem. But number two, this is what I call Ronald Reagan nightmare. President Ronald Reagan, who abhorred the whole idea of nuclear war and thought of mutually assured destruction as a highly irresponsible and immoral way to keep world peace. What did that mean? That meant at his time, and I lived through all of this, right? The United States and Russia had the power, based on the orders of the president or the premier of Russia, to destroy the world or come pretty close to it. they both had, whether ours was greater than theirs or whatever, they both had the ability to destroy large parts of the world, if not the whole world. Human beings shouldn't have that power. God created the world, not human beings. And it rested, mutually assured destruction, on the fear that if Russia attacked us, we would destroy them. If we attacked Russia, they would destroy us. So mutually assured destruction assured the peace. But isn't there a caveat, an exception that would occur to any intelligent man like Ronald Reagan or anyone else? Really, you don't have to be that intelligent. If, perchance, an insane person would have gained that position through hook or crook or cheating in an election or winning an election like Hitler did, or I think Stalin also, and was not only evil, not only insane from the point of view of homicidally insane, but suicidally insane, like the extremist Muslims are, like the Ayatollah, first one, second one, and the new one without a face, if he does exist, then the world could end, or the destruction to it could be incalculable. And Ronald Reagan, who did not have to face that, because thank God, what was presented to us by our presidents, whatever you think of them, and their chiefs of state, heads of state, were great people, good people, bad people, but not suicidal people. And to the extent that China then got itself into the club of enough nuclear power to destroy or do great damage to the world. Same thing in China. Major homicidal maniacs, but not suicidal. They like killing other people, their own people, China in particular. From the very beginning, the Ayatollah has been clearly suicidal, and his troops and followers are truly suicidal. And if you read their religion strictly, and you read their Quran strictly, that's a religious obligation of theirs. I mean, don't go crazy and start, accusing me of being Islamophobic or Islam or whatever. I understand Islam. I understand it probably better than most Americans. I've read the Quran more than once. I've studied it. I've read some, not all of the hadiths. I don't think anybody's read all the hadiths. And I understand Muslim Iranian history about as well as anyone but a scholar might. And I also understand that the vast majority of Muslims are normal people who don't want to destroy the world and don't want to die. But I also understand that there are a significant number of Iranians and other Muslims, Arab and others, Asian, that subscribe to a very strict reading of the Quran, which you can tell people that it isn't there or pretend that it isn't, but it is. And there is a part of Muhammad in the second part of his life where he is clearly a homicidal maniac, as well as a brutal human being and a perverted human being. That's all in the big package. And then the question of how much of that are you going to accept, how much you're going to reject or ignore. And thank goodness for the world, most Muslims ignore that. They either ignore it or they use, a process of pretending or trying to make believe it's not there or attack you if you remind people that it is there. I only bring it up because I want to see a change. In any event, that's what we face And that is why the goal that Iran not be nuclear is non-negotiable, unless we'd like to negotiate possibly the end of our world. And President Trump understands it as well as anyone, and has understood it from the day I met him, which is a long time ago. With that comes along a lot of other things, which, depending on your depending on your thinking and maybe even your level of morality or decency, may become important goals or not. But it appears as if the regime, and let's take it all together now, the good guys and the bad guys, if there are good guys, it seems like they're doing everything they can not to get to that. It seems to me this whole thing with the Gulf of Hormuz, Straits of Hormuz, it's been invented since the war. I don't remember the regime of terror in the past raising the issue of charging for going through the Straits of Hormuz. Maybe they did at one point and I missed it, but it certainly wasn't a major issue. So it is quite obvious that it's an obstacle placed there to not get to what the United States and most of the world want us to get to. And exactly how we negotiate our way through that. By negotiate, I don't just mean at the table. I mean, in general, the use of military, the use of sanctions, the use of relief of sanctions, the good guy, bad guy approach. It couldn't be in better hands than President Trump. I see today, or was it yet? Well, today is when I first saw it, but I see today there was a report that the president reversed what was I don't know how far along it went, a planned action to reduce the number of troops that we have in Europe. And it appears as if that process began when the reduction was shared with our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And I agree with that. But whether I agree with it or not, I think it should be pointed out that it does show the increasing influence that the secretary has in the government, as should be the case, because he's demonstrated unusual wisdom. Not to me, because I know him forever, and from the moment he was thought of as Secretary of State, I thought it was a terrific idea. I also happen to be a great supporter of Pete Hegseth, who recommended it. And I can see why he recommended it. And maybe we're not getting the full picture. I think probably what Pete was recommending is moving some of that to the Pacific Front, where we have as great, if not greater, a threat that's somewhat dormant right now. But in fact, so much of what we're doing and what President Trump has done almost immediately is to close the gap with China. Now, it's a different kind of gap. It's not a gap like they're ahead of us. It's a gap like they're catching up on us. And, let's visualize. Let's say the gap before Biden was like this. Under Biden, it got to be like this. Trump has already taken it up to here. Now, thank goodness, they are also having serious economic problems, much greater than they tell us. So this may have also happened as well. So here we were. Trump has taken us up here. He's headed for there. And they're probably down here right now. So part of that is a consideration and a recalculation of how we disperse our military forces, naval, and otherwise, and including the whole new area of warfare, drone warfare, where I guess this is the byproduct of being involved in these wars. We've gained some experience, very needed experience, with the help of the Ukrainians, in using it in the Middle East, and are going through a crash course or operation kind of similar to World War II in making ourselves, as soon as we can, the biggest, the strongest, and the best producers of drones in the world. I have no doubt that within 2 years we'll be there. And right now, we have, among our allies, a great deal of help. The whole situation in Ukraine is one we have to keep. I mean, you have to pray for the president, don't you? I mean, I don't get this. The people who want him to be unsuccessful. When Barack Obama was elected president, I thought the country was half nuts electing him. But I prayed for his success deeply, strongly. Biden, I even prayed for, but I knew it, I kind of like, I prayed, I kind of like have a conversation when I pray. And I used to pray for Obama the way I prayed for Carter and other presidents and the presidents I admired and liked too. But Biden, I mean, I used to pray and I would say to God and to Jesus, I know you think I'm a hypocrite because I revealed all the criminality about him. I know how thoroughly evil he is. I don't know, somehow do a miracle and make him successful. Well, it wasn't going to happen, but I don't understand these people who aren't praying for the success of Donald Trump. I mean, I talked to the president about Trump derangement syndrome, and I think he says this, and I think he's serious about it. It really should be a mental illness in the DSM. Is it a DSM-5 or they have a DSM-6 now? The DSM is the book that defines mental illness: minor, moderate, and out of this world severe. And I think it should be a definable mental illness. Not all of it. Some of it is like anything else, right? People can have even paranoia or schizophrenia, or maybe more commonly depression, and it can be very minor, almost part of the human condition. That a little bit worse, unbearable. Most people who have it at a moderate level of some kind. And maybe it needs treatment. And there's a big dispute about whether medicine should be used or talk therapy or a combination of both. And then when it gets into the really serious stage, that's different. Yeah. But this is true with the Trump derangement syndrome. It can be just a personality disorder of some kind, or it can be a really serious illness that appears to have driven some people to murder. So I'm not joking about it. I'm not in any way just being sarcastic about it. I really do believe it should be considered and diagnosed. A little good news on our birthday: the death rate in the United States fell for the second year in a row. Now, some of that is the comparison to COVID days, but some of it also is the significant drop of deaths from overdoses. And you have to attribute that to a very large extent to the control that this administration has asserted over the border, where a good deal of the illegal drugs come in. And of course, the thing that was really driving those increases was fentanyl. I'm not going to tell you fentanyl is under control yet, but I'm going to tell you our exercise of control over it is much greater than it has been. And it reflects itself in significant drops in the rate of overdoses, which turns out to be one of the significant causes, or had been one of the significant causes of death in the United States, which now has reduced for the second year in a row. You should note, however, that it's much higher among men than it is among women, and it is much higher among Black Americans. In part, I think, because of the sinful negligence of Democrats in inner cities, what we call inner cities. You look at Chicago, 70 years of Democratic control, and then you get a weekend like 2 weeks ago with 7 or 8 people murdered and 28 shot. Come on. They're being sold out by the Democrat politicians, white and black. I mean, their mayor fits the description that was given to him by Rob. Wasn't it Rob who did it? Ted? No, not today. Some time ago when he said, not you, Rob, Rob on Newsmax. He said somehow in Chicago, every 4 years, they pick the dumbest person in Chicago to be mayor. When you look at the one who looked like she had put her finger in a socket, you know, the hair. And now this one here, this guy, Brandon No Brain. I am very, very glad to see that my friend, I can't say I'm a good friend. I would like to be. I've met Dennis a couple of times, Dennis Quaid, and I thought he did a magnificent job of playing my hero, Ronald Reagan. And boy, that's hard. And I had a chance to tell him that at the Trump golf course. Very nice guy, Dennis Quaid. Always admired him as an actor before I knew how smart he was, because he's a very big Republican. Or brave he is, because he's a very big Republican. He's moving out of Los Angeles because he says there hasn't been any improvement since the mayor still hasn't put water, apparently, in the fire hydrants. She's been back from Ghana now for a year and a half, and she still hasn't filled up water. When we went to Los Angeles a week ago, Ted and I and Dr. Maria thought we overdid it, brought our own water with us in case there was a fire. I'm kidding. Laugh. I don't hear it. Okay. What's going on with the Democrat Party? Right now, this is a silly thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I wish I was a Democrat. Why is that? So I could change them. They have a couple of very, very isolated voices, and it is the chances of success of their doing what I would have thought would have been the normal process 25 or 30 years ago is very small. It's even smaller than I don't know, our winning the cup, the World Cup. I think that we have a much greater chance of winning the Gold Cup than they have of fixing the Democrat Party. But I'm rooting for them. Now, you said that's strange. You're a Republican. You used to be a Democrat. You changed parties. You're a very, very fierce Republican. I am a Republican, only as a reflection of being an American, only as a reflection of asking myself the question, what's better for my country? And if the answer to that was some other political party or some other political arrangement, I would change, or I would try to change my party. Example, when the problem of Nazism reached the level of a candidate for major office in the Republican Party being a confirmed Nazi, I wasn't singular. Don't give me a page in Profile and Courage for this. I, along with the then president of the United States, the former president of the United States, and every Republican I knew, stood against him and endorsed his opponent, who was an unworthy Democrat. Unworthy in that he was corrupt, it turned out. But he was still better than a Nazi, who also was corrupt, by the way. I don't remember that happening with anybody in the Democrat Party, except for when the person gets in the way of their ambitions. And then it has nothing to do with this. It's like Swalwell, right? Swalwell got tossed out this time for, I don't know, one of many allegations. He didn't get tossed out for the biggest one of all, having an affair with a Chinese spy.
Right. Because
at that time, he was very useful to them. Now it turned out that he was standing in the way of a Democrat being elected governor, because it was quite possible at one point that had he remained in the race, he would have ended up third and two Republicans would have been first and second. It turned out that Steve Hilton ended up first anyway. But had he been in the race, I don't know if it would have ended up two Republicans, but there was a risk of that. And that's why they got rid of him.
Right.
Not because he's a liar, a security risk, just a horrible human being. Now we hear all the stories about him and other congressmen. Or Tampon Tim. Tampon Tim has a record, definable record, that raises for any serious human being the legitimate question: is he a red Chinese operative? What's that based on? And there are many other things about him too, including how much did he get from all the money that's been stolen in Wisconsin? His lying about the military, his punking out on going into action when he let his unit go off by themselves. I mean, this is a really very questionable guy. But this Chinese thing is so obvious that I just have to, for the good of the country, assume that he is until he answers it. There are questions about him that are crying for an answer that I can't imagine wouldn't be required of a Republican. For example, when he got out of college, he went off to China for a year and a half in a program sponsored by Harvard, the biggest offender of cooperation with the Red Chinese over the years, including people indicted and convicted for it. And he stayed there for a year and a half. He became the favorite of one of the mayors. He was having a romantic relationship with the daughter, who somehow fell in love with him. I mean, obviously not a young woman with her head screwed on straight. And when he came back, according to him, he returned to China 30 more times. And he brought students with him, 50 or so each time, for a tour and educational purposes. And he taught there. Now, simple question. Are the Chinese going to let him come back 30 times, which was then corrected to 15 times? Now, that's a big gap. He said it was, I don't know. Either he said it was 30 and the campaign said it was 15, or the campaign said it was 30 and he said it was 15. I think he could get a little closer. I think if you went 30 times, you wouldn't say 15. And if you went 15 times, you wouldn't say 30, right? Going to China, it's not like, going from Manhattan to Brooklyn. And it's hard to get into China if you're a Republican. I know, because they make it very hard for me to go. And they even threw me out once. Well, no, they froze me out, I should say. And believe me, if he was going to China with those 50 kids and he was showing them the ravages of Chinese communism, he wouldn't have gone back 15 times or 30 times. He also was getting money from them, and no one's ever bothered to look. He claims that he made the money with tuition payments from the students. But there's also an awful lot of transactions between him and China to his two businesses. And it seems to me his only customer was China. He's also said things that before people knew this, people wondered if he wasn't a communist. He once said that China should be brought in as a moral force to help solve the problem in Iran. Moral force? The Chinese government, the present red Chinese government, has the distinction of killing more of its own people than any government on earth. And that isn't even debatable. So there's now a documentary out about him. What is it called? It has a
we got
sarcastic name. What do they call it? Moscow?
Mao.
Oh, Mao. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Something. What do they call it?
Mao.
Something Mao.
Mao, Minnesota. Minnesota Mao. I call him Tampon Tim, but Minnesota Mao.
You got to see this documentary.
You got to watch the documentary. I mean, and it doesn't do. No, sorry, documentary people. You didn't do a good enough job of really running down the relationship with China. It would seem to me that all the financial records are available. Now, you can't get them, but somebody in the government can. And why not? Why don't we investigate this guy? Why don't we find out how deeply infiltrated we are by the red Chinese? After all, they do want to take over the world. I didn't say that, they did. Last time we ignored that, we had Hitler.
I mean, the mayor and I sat and watched that documentary last night. I mean, we see a lot in this industry, right? But this takes the cake. When the mayor tells you have to see this documentary, I don't think you really understand. You have to see this documentary.
I think you just get it on X. I think you can get it on X.
Yeah, it's like free. You put on maybe YouTube.
Absolutely free. Yeah. Get it on X. It's all yours. And it's 1 hour. It's not, and it really goes very fast because there's an awful lot to absorb. And as I said, what they prove is enough to put them in. But there's a lot left open to me as an investigator. But here's my point. If I raised the issue that you went to China 15 times, you made your living going to China. You made your living taking young students to China and educating them there. I'm sorry, until you explain it to me for the good of my country, I got to assume that you're a security risk. I mean, I wouldn't give you a security clearance when I was in the Justice Department if you had that record. You better explain to me how the hell you got away with going back and forth to China and not selling out to them. I mean, you may just be a very special kind of guy, that they kind of like you because you're so jerky.
And I would say, based on some of the corruption that was revealed in that video, you have to assume
maybe they make money with them.
Well, I mean, you would assume
the Chinese are corrupt as hell. Red Chinese.
You would almost assume for certain that if he had if he had clearance, it would be a risk. He would be a risk.
Now, please understand, and I will say it, and I will be careful because it's my obligation to be careful. When I say Chinese, I don't mean the wonderful Chinese people. They're victims of this. I mean the red Chinese. Now, there are a lot of them. There are more red Chinese than most countries have as a population, 100 million. But there are 1.3, 1.4 billion Chinese. And some are just passive, but some are just out and out victims. I mean, a whole number of them are used for body parts. The UN has documented that, but not done anything about it. This isn't Rudy. This has been documented for 25 years. Another best-selling book.
Minnesota Mao.
Then I don't know where they find these candidates. I know where they find them. They find them in the Communist Party. And somebody should really take a good look at the Democrat Socialists of America. Who the hell's funding them? In addition to Soros and the usual America haters and Israel haters. And I mean, are they getting direct funding from the Communist Party and direct help and assistance? Their positions align perfectly. So if they're not communists, they're doing a hell of a job pretending they are.
Yeah.
And they have a virulent hatred of the United States.
Well, they definitely are.
So as part of the 250th anniversary of the United States, a lot of places have done like polls on how happy people are and how unhappy they are and whatever. And there are some polls that are contradictory. But I would say that it is pretty clear that either a large number beyond a majority to something approaching a majority of Democrats are not proud of being Americans any longer. Nor do they think of patriotism as a virtue. Some of them are very high, like 60, 70%. Some are like 52, 53, 47, 48. But then in comparison to Republicans, who are anywhere from 80 to 95% proud, or independents who are anywhere from 75 to 90% proud, they really constitute a large but minority group in this country in terms of not liking our country. I don't know when that happened or how that happened or why it's tolerated. If I were a Democrat, I would start a movement that begins with, if you want to be part of my party, you have to announce to you, I love America. I think that should be one of the tests of coming here as an immigrant. People should express a desire to be American, not to have Sharia law. What the hell are you coming here for? If you want Sharia law, stay there. Like my grandfather used to say to his, what they used to call Goombas, compatriots, compadres, his Italian friends that were here in America. And some of them would say, oh, how much prettier Italy was and how much of this, that. And he'd say, well, yeah, go back. You need a loan? I'll give you the money. You can go back. If you don't like it, don't go complain. Just go back. What the hell did you come here for? You think you'd be living like this over there? I mean, that's the way I feel about all these people who are constantly attacking us. I mean, like all the Somalians who are stealing us blind. And I'm sure it's not every one of them. I'm sure there's some good people there, but they sure aren't represented by them. They're represented by people that complain about America constantly, that think Somalia is superior, who carry around the Somali flag instead of the American flag. And the country is a completely corrupt, backward country.
Disease.
And it appears as if a large number of the people who came here are completely corrupt. That's an extraordinary amount of money they stole in Minneapolis. And it's only just beginning. So they can be very enterprising people, but in a different way than the Greeks were and the Cubans and the Jewish people and the Irish people and the Italian people. The vast majority of them, with a couple of exceptions, right, turned out to be very, very hardworking and built America. It's disputable, but I do think it's well over a majority of them are getting money from the government. I don't think my grandfather got money from the government when he came here from Italy. In fact, he came to America when, my grandmother did, around the time that Italians were the second most lynched group in America. Because they looked, it was basically in Louisiana was the center of it. And the Italians that came over were more from southern Italy, like half my family is, and they were somewhat dark-skinned. And they spoke a foreign language, and to the highly sophisticated, very beautifully dressed Ku Klux Klan, they look like, I don't know, I guess they look like blacks. Of course, they came from a civilization that was eating with knives and forks while these people were eating their fingers. That's why Italians have never really suffered have internalized that. We're very, very proud of our heritage. We're very, very proud of our contribution to Western civilization, as Greeks should be, as Jews should be.
Yeah, they kind of fought for it. They worked hard
Well,
for
we're
it.
part of, I mean, Western civilization, as I discussed with the rabbi last night, is built on, and you pick the order, Judaism, the Ten Commandments, the Old Testament, the discipline and the teachings of the Jewish kings and scholars, Greek philosophy, literature, inventions, governmental structures, amalgamated by Rome, spread out through Europe. Then the great contribution of Christian monks, both Western and Eastern, in preserving our literature. Western civilization has the greatest literature of any civilization in the world. It wouldn't be here if it weren't for the monks who sat in monasteries copying the Bible. This is a lot to copy, boys.
Yeah, with a pen and a paper. Right?
Takes a while to copy that. You got to be really dedicated to do it. So, and producing scholars like the other book here is Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine. Thomas Aquinas was Italian. Augustine was African. So that's what's at risk now. The president made this plain several days ago. He knows it. He knows it. He realizes how critical it is. He realizes how important it is. And he and J.D. Vance and Secretary Marco Rubio have really led the charge. And I know that deep down they understand, yes, America first, saving America, making America great again. And we're well along on that. But they also understand that they have in their hands the defense and the reemergence of Western civilization. And it is God's work, what they're doing. And the socialists, every day a new one comes along, and I say to myself, I can't even distinguish them now. There's the guy in Maine with the Nazi thing for 15 years who likes to abuse women but not completely beat them up. So that's okay. He doesn't completely beat them up. He just pinches them, hurts them, abuses them, makes fun of them, tells them he'd like to rape them. And they want to make this perverted moron a senator.
In other words, makes them subservient.
Yeah. I mean, then you got three candidates running under the aegis of Mondami who hate Jews. What do you mean you hate Jews? Where does that come from? Sickness. That's where it comes from. Now, if you hate Jews, go get help. Don't try to become a congressman or a senator and try to set the standards and the morality and the decency and the laws of the United States. Don't tell me how terrible the United States is and then want to run for this country. Run to govern this country. Go off somewhere. I don't know. If you don't like it, like Ilhan Omar, why the hell don't you go back to Somalia with your brother or husband or whatever the hell he is? I know you went through a really big problem. When you first put in your financial disclosure form, you were worth 30 million. Now you're worth nothing. And there's no explanation of how you were worth 30 million and how you're now worth nothing. We just know that your community stole $9 billion based on laws that you passed with people that you advised.
Yeah, there's a lot of Minnesota Maos in that party.
Now we have a candidate in Michigan, Ted, and I have to go to Michigan because he loves Michigan, quite rightly, a great state, produced one of our truly wonderful presidents, Gerald Ford, a wonderful man, and would have been a great president if the little peanut farmer hadn't come along.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, was also a very nice man, but a terrible president.
Right.
And the biggest fiction of all is he was a great ex-president. He was a supporter of Muslim terrorism. He was at the time, what would be equivalent to being anti-Israel. He was a critic of the United States. He had given up on us as a country that ever was going to improve. And he did nothing to really help the United States. He did help individual people as a Christian. I will say that. And I once participated in building houses in New York with him. And I'm proud of that. But I'm also very embarrassed about the positions he would take and the anti-American attitude he had even when he was an ex-president. And also his cowardice. He and Jim Baker wrote a report in 2003-4 in which they pointed out that the single biggest problem in election fraud are absentee mail-in ballots, and that Europe had gone through a wave of fraud, and most European countries had either banned absentee ballots completely or put them under very strict rules. Only if you were sick, only if you had to travel, you had to prove that. First time I cast an absentee ballot in New York, I had to give the reason why I wasn't going to be there. And since I pay attention to the law very carefully, the law in New York used to be, if let's say I went and got an absentee ballot because I knew I was going to be traveling to give a speech in Hawaii or wherever on election day. But then it turned out they canceled the speech. And I was in New York that day. I had to go vote. I had to go bring my ballot, give it in, cast a provisional vote. It was so important that you show up on election day. Baker and Carter, Republican and Democrat, pointed out that was number one thing to look at for stolen elections. And what election did we have 10 times more absentee ballots than you ever had before? 2020. And where did they go when that happened? Oh, we didn't quite mean that. I'm not sure we wrote that. Gee, I'm getting sick now. Sorry. He's not entitled to that. He was a great ex-president. He was a detractor in the United States of America throughout his career. I don't know how the hell he ever served in the Navy, but God bless him. God bless you for serving. And what happened to you after, I'm not responsible for. Abdul El Sayed, the candidate for the Senate in Michigan, has campaigned alongside Hassan Piker. Now, since Hassan Piker is not running for office, nobody pays attention to him, but he's with all these people. Hassan Piker, I'm not going to go through all his quotes. He has quotes. He despises the Jewish people. He despises us, you, me, Americans who don't agree with him. He also believes that America deserved 9/11. You know what I'd like to do with him if I get my hands on that shit, right? We deserve 9/11, you shit. Rip your beard off your face, you son of a...
Well, Syed's doing very well in the polls. And
well, Syed campaigned with him.
Yes. And ever since then, he's been rising in the polls on the Democrat side. Michigan's got a big left-wing.
Well, this guy, when asked to separate himself from this guy that he campaigned with, didn't. So I don't know. What can we do, Ted, to make sure that Abdul El Sayed does not end up in the United States Senate and disgrace the place?
Well, Michigan's got a good candidate on the Republican side, Mike Rogers.
Yeah, a true American,
From my
American
background with
patriot. Is that him?
That's Sayed.
That's the guy who hates America
Mhm.
and doesn't really give a damn about the people who died on September 11,
So we'll have to get
probably on the side of the people that killed him.
Rogers on the show a few times.
Now, in Colorado, they have another candidate, the Democrat Socialists of America, Milat Quiroz. She won the Democratic primary. She called both the 9/11 attacks and October 7 massacre in Israel inevitable consequences of American and Israeli foreign policy. Okay. That's the reason I took $10 million and shoved it down the throat of the Saudi Arabian princeling who gave it to me as a contribution, because that's what he said after he gave it to me. He gave it to me. I gave it to my assistant. I went off to a funeral. On the way back from the funeral in a helicopter, my assistant, Beth Patron, called me, and she told me this because she thought maybe I would jump out of the helicopter to go after him. She told me what he said. I called Larry Levy, who was in charge of this for me, who I had given the check to. I said, Larry, have you cashed that check? He said, no, not yet. I said, hold it. He said, oh, I hate holding the check. I just hold it. Called Beth back. I said to Beth, what would the 9/11 widows think if I gave back $10 million? That's intended for them, not me or the city. She said, from that guy? They don't want blood money. Now, why could Beth say that? Because Beth's husband died on 9/11. Not only that, he died. And 8 days later, she found out she was pregnant. And that lovely young lady is now just a great American, a great person. But she told me, and I said, well, Beth, I know you feel that way. You work with me. We have very similar political views. But could you do me a favor? Could you call 4 or 5 of them? Some that I knew were the Democrats, and we went over it. I was on a helicopter. And she said, yeah, and when you get down, I'll have a report for you. When I got down and I went to the emergency center, she had some of them ready to talk to me, telling me they'd be upset with me if I kept it. It wasn't so brave of me giving it back. And I gave it back, and I basically, it took everything that I had developed over years of being civilized, having come from Brooklyn, not to go beat the shit out of him. He eventually got arrested by Mohammed bin Salman for being a crook by the Saudis. It's totally separate, stealing from the family. And he was one of the biggest banking magnates from Saudi Arabia in the United States. I think he was a big shareholder in one of the big banks. I don't want to say which one because I don't want to hurt them, but one of the 2 or 3 biggest banks in the world, American. And boy, did I get beaten up over that, except by the people who counted. The loyal, wonderful Americans who came from those families that are still suffering, from the people who were killed under the banner of a Muslim take over the world. Yeah, I know most Muslims are good people. I know most of them don't believe it. Unfortunately, a significant and fairly powerful group do. And they generally announce what they're doing by saying Allah Akbar. Then you know they're killing you in the name of Allah, previously for 1,000 years before Muhammad grabbed them, the sun god. I'm going to conclude now so you can listen to Dr. Maria, because we're going to go into tomorrow. We want to all be rested to enjoy our birthday. It's our birthday. It's a birthday for all of those who are Americans. Now, who are Americans? Let's go back to maybe our greatest president. Certainly, you'd put him in the list of I don't know, 3 or 4 of the greatest presidents. I'm one of the greatest men, maybe one of the greatest men in the history of the world, Abraham Lincoln. In 1858, Abraham Lincoln, who either was a candidate for the Senate then or had just lost, was at a immigration ceremony, and a newly created American citizen came up to him and said, "How can I ever be as good an American as?" There were representatives of the Daughters of the American Revolution there. "How can I ever be as good an American as they are? They go back to the Mayflower." He said they do, and they should be very proud of that. But that isn't. We don't measure whether you are and how good you are as an American based on your heritage. That's not America. We're not one group. We're not one nationality. We're not one religion. We're maybe one of the first nations that enshrined freedom of religion. And at the same time, understand we come from God. We're not one language. We try to bring everybody together with one language, the English language. He said we're people tied together with a sacred bond greater than all that. And it's our commitment to the values and principles of America. He said we're like a secular religion. Our rights come from God, but then you can worship God the way you want. But the things that tie us together are our sacred principles. And the person asked, "Well, what are those?" He said, "Well, it's really simple. Read the Declaration of Independence. And read the Bill of Rights. And if you agree with those, you're an American. And the more you agree with them, and the more you practice them, if you believe them more and you practice them more than the person whose family came on the Mayflower and you just became an American yesterday, you're the better American." We're a nation unlike any other. And that's why we're the greatest nation in the history of the world. We're a country built on ideals that come from God and from nature. We read those ideas at the beginning. We're going to conclude with a singing, if we have it ready, of "God Bless America." Hopefully with the necessary introduction that points out that this is a hymn, this is a prayer, pointing out the religious foundation of this country. And as I say often and want to remind people, America has freedom of religion. You can believe in God. You don't have to believe in God. But that doesn't negate the fact that it was the belief of our founders, and it was enshrined in our foundational documents, that our rights come not from the government in Washington, not from the United Nations, not from other Americans. They come from God. And they're sacred. And whether you believe the part about coming from God or not, then you can elect if they come from nature. But you better respect them and follow them. Otherwise, maybe you call yourself an American, but you're not. I'll remind you of what they are. It's very simple. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, God, with certain unalienable rights. That means rights you cannot give away. Unalienable means you cannot alienate them. That's a Latin root. Alienate means to give away. You can give away rights like, and the word property used to be in there. It was taken out because you can sell property. You can't sell your life. You can't sell your freedom. And you can't sell your pursuit of a virtuous, good life. They're unalienable. And they're the basic ones because the words before it say, with certain unalienable rights, cannot give them away. That among these, not only, but among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So governments don't create us. Governments don't govern us. Governments don't give us our rights. They come from God. We create governments, deriving their just powers from the consent of the government. The man in 1858 who said that is the man who in 1863 said government of the people, for the people, and by the people, which is another way of saying this. And one must consider that the Gettysburg Address, although later in time, another foundational document. I would consider the foundational documents this, Declaration of Independence, number 1, maybe the Bill of Rights, number 2, and maybe the Gettysburg Address, number 3, and then the Constitution. The Constitution, the structure of government with the separation of powers between states and federal government, between the 3 branches of government, all that is done to assure your rights so that government doesn't become primary. We're not governed from above, we're governed from below up, unlike the communists who now want to take us over. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, by men and women, right? Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Thank you, God, for giving us those rights. We pray to you a prayer of thanksgiving on our 250th anniversary. With all of our problems and all the challenges to us and our civilization, we still have maintained this form of government, free government, Republican form of government with democratic values. We've maintained that longer than any such government in the history of the world, and we intend to maintain it forever until you come and get us. And nothing is going to stand in our way because we're willing to give up our lives for it. As were the founding fathers, who we thank you for giving us them. We thank you for saving the life of Donald Trump. We thank you for giving us our great leaders always at the time that we needed them most. We ask you to pray for those countries that are on the tip of the spear right now, Israel, and Ukraine, and Iran. Of course, we ask you to bless us and continue to bless us. And we thank you for doing it. And we promise you that we will live up to it by our actions. So we're going to end with God bless America. And of course, we always say at the end of every show, or it's not over, as a prayer. And as you will now hear, that's what it is. God bless America. Happy 250th birthday. God bless America.
Men and women stationed around the globe, Dr. Tynan will now sing God bless America.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,